Friday practice in Bahrain is over, and the fastest driver of the day was Oscar Piastri in the McLaren, as both McLarens are quite a long way ahead of the competition so far. But what did we learn? Well, in today's video I'm going to be doing a data analysis from practice. If you enjoyed the video, then please hit the like button and subscribe for more F1 content. Now, let's get into the video. As usual, I'll be talking about the top teams later on, so please do stick around for that. Yep, Friday practice is over in Bahrain, and as usual, FP1 took place in the baking sunshine, and FP2 took place in the evening. FP3 will also be taking place during the day, meaning that FP2 is really the only representative session of the weekend before qualifying in the Grand Prix. And due to how unrepresentative FP1 was, we saw multiple teams take the opportunity to run some Friday rookies, which almost ended in a disaster for Williams. To show how unrepresentative FP1 is, let's compare the fastest time from FP1 set by Lando Norris to the FP2 lap time of Oscar Piastri, so we can see how much the temperature changes affected the tyres and the driver's ability to lap the circuit. When you look at the two laps, the first thing that stands out is the usual change in power unit modes, as of course as usual FP2 has more power settings than FP1. But we are pretty much used to seeing that, as the teams don't want to waste precious engine performance in the first practice session. But look at what else we can see. Through the turns 5, 6 and 7 complexer corners here, you can see a massive amount of additional speed being carried by Piastri in FP2, compared to what Norris could do in FP1. There is roughly a 15 km/h difference through this section alone, and the reason for the massive difference is because in FP1 the grip was very low on a green circuit, and mix that with high temperatures, it means you can't really carry the speed, whereas in FP2 with better grip and better circuit temperatures, the tyres were not overheating as much and the drivers were able to get more of what they wanted through those corners. You can also see that at pretty much every apex, Piastri in the McLaren is able to carry quite a bit more minimum apex speed, showing again that the tyres were not really overheating as much in FP2 as they were in FP1. Also, he was able to get back to full throttle sooner quite a few times as well, showing again how the circuit grip had vastly improved between the two sessions. Overall, between FP1 and FP2, the fastest lap times improved by a pretty staggering 2.7 seconds, which is a very large amount of time and goes to show how much difference the temperature can make from day to night in terms of performance for the drivers. So we've seen how the lap times change from FP1 to FP2, but now let's take a look at the top speeds that the teams are able to reach, and let's see who's looking fast and who's looking slow in a straight line. And when you look at the top speeds, there is a few things that stand out. Racing Bulls look like they are right now the fastest team in a straight line, as Hajar hit 328 km/h, and teammate Liam Lawson also hit 327 km/h. Once again, like we saw in Suzuka though, the slowest car in a straight line was the McLaren team, as Piastri only hit 319 km/h, and Lando Norris was the slowest driver in a straight line of the day, as he only hit 318 km/h. If McLaren end up on the front row, this shouldn't really be an issue, but if we do see them not both on the front row like we saw in Japan, then it could be a bit more difficult for them if they have to do some overtaking, because for whatever reason, they like to find themselves making life more difficult than they need to actually do. For the rookies today, it was another very impressive performance by Isaac Hajar in the Racing Bulls, who looks to be really getting on top of that Racing Bull car, and he has quite the edge once again over teammate Liam Lawson, who I think is still trying to get used to the new car, or being back in the Racing Bulls car. Another rookie who looks to be having a very solid performance once again is Oliver Bearman in the Haas car, who has really impressed each weekend, apart from of course Australia where he had a few incidents. And once again, Oliver Bearman finds himself quite far ahead of Esteban Ocon, and well, he's less than a tenth of a second behind Lewis Hamilton in the Ferrari, which goes to show how well Behrman has performed today. I just want to say, if you are enjoying the video so far, then I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button and subscribe for more F1 content. Now though, let's get back to the video and let's talk about Ferrari. For Ferrari then, today was a bit of a rough day. It looked like both Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc were really struggling on the soft tyres, and they were really struggling to keep them alive for an entire lap. We saw that Lewis really struggled in Sector 3 as well, and you can see that when you compare the fastest laps of Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. And well, when you look at these two laps, Lewis is actually ahead through Sector 1 and Sector 2 compared to teammate Leclerc. But going into that final corner, just like we saw quite a few times, Lewis really struggled to get the car turned, almost like he had run out of tyre performance and understeered straight off at the final corner. In that final corner alone, Lewis Hamilton lost 0.6 of a second to teammate Charles Leclerc. In the longer runs, Charles Leclerc used the medium tyre and Lewis used soft tyres, and to be honest, when you look at these two runs, it actually looks like Leclerc had a bit of an edge when it came to pace, showing that for Ferrari, the medium tyres might be the way to go in the Grand Prix, as the softs look to be running out pretty quickly for them. For Red Bull then, it was not a great day to be honest. Max Verstappen was down in 7th place, and well, he was behind Isaac Hadjar in the Racing Bulls. Teammate Yuki Tsunoda found himself way down in 18th place, much like where Liam Lawson was in the Red Bull as well, which is not a great result. Red Bull also had Verstappen do a long run on the soft tyres, which he looked to be struggling on after a few laps. But out of interest, let's compare the long runs of Verstappen and Tsunoda. Verstappen of course did it on soft tyres, and Tsunoda did it on the mediums. And when you look at these two runs, even though Verstappen was really struggling and was falling off the cliff, he's actually faster than Tsunoda was on the medium tyres, which tells a bit of a different story to what I just said with Ferrari, as Verstappen fairly consistently had a pace advantage over his teammates, showing that actually for Red Bulls, the soft tyres look like they might be the way to go in the Grand Prix. Last year, of course, we saw the softs being used, and to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if for most teams, it was the race tyre of choice once again. For Mercedes then, it was a P3 and P5 result for George Russell and Kimi Antonelli, once again showing how the Mercedes car is looking pretty strong, and in general they are the second fastest car out there. Both cars in general are looking pretty good, if not still a little bit off of the McLaren cars, who look very strong so far this weekend. Let's compare the long runs of Russell to that of Norris, so that we can see how the longer runs differ from McLaren to Mercedes. And when you compare these longer runs from both drivers, it actually looks somewhat comparable. The reason I've used Norris instead of Piastri is because both Norris and Russell did similar stints on the soft tyres at the same time. And when you look at the two runs, it does start off advantage McLaren as you would expect. But then it looks like McLaren might have actually had slightly more tyre deg than Mercedes, as Norris's times do drop off slightly quicker than Russell, and for Mercedes, this could be their only hope for the weekend. They need to hope that McLaren has more degradation than they do in the Grand Prix, because well, in terms of pure pace, McLaren looks to be much faster than Mercedes, even though Mercedes is the second fastest car this weekend, at least so far. Finally, for McLaren then, it looks like they're in a very strong position. I have to say Norris and Piastri look pretty comfortable out on track, and the McLaren looks to be working very well. And, well, Piastri was half a second clear of George Russell in the Mercedes, showing that they are looking very strong. Also, the long run showed that McLaren are looking like they could be in a good position as well compared to Mercedes. With Mercedes, we compared the long runs of Russell and Norris, but now let's compare the fastest lap of George Russell and compare it to Oscar Piastri, so we can see where the differences were just over one lap. And when you look at the two laps pretty early on, Mercedes actually has the edge. Through the turn 5, 6 and 7 section, Russell looks to be getting a better run, and based on the delta, he's actually ahead of Oscar Piastri. But when it comes to turn 10, Piastri in the McLaren is simply better through those slower, tighter corners. And then, as we've seen throughout the season so far, McLaren manages to keep the tyres alive through the lap and carry more minimum apex speed, leading to a large difference of over half a second. The competition right now has a lot of work to do if they want to beat McLaren this weekend. But we should kind of know that from pre-season testing, McLaren were always going to be very strong in Bahrain. So with that in mind then, what are my qualifying predictions for the Bahrain Grand Prix? Well, in P5, I'm going to go for Kimi Antonelli in the Mercedes. P4 will be Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. P3 will be George Russell in the Mercedes. P2 will be Lando Norris, and I'm going to go for Oscar Piastri to take pole position for the Bahrain Grand Prix. But those are my thoughts. The question is, what do you guys think will happen? In the comment section down below, please do let me know. And as always, comment, leave a like and subscribe for more F1 content. Thank you all so much for watching.